Hey guys, in today's tutorial... Geez, at least let me get through the intro before you pull that trigger. Anyways, I got a lot of questions from you guys on how I created the bullet hit effect from my bullet hit tutorial where the camera is panning as I'm being hit. Now, since I filmed the video all by my lonesome, I actually used the fake camera pan to create this effect, and you can learn all about fake camera pans in my tutorial, so do check that out. But today I'm going to show you a much easier way to create great looking bullet hit effects while the camera is moving through the scene. For this, I've got Jimmy behind the camera, and what Jimmy will do, Jimmy will pan across the scene. What I have here is the exact footage I used for the intro of this video. It is the short sequence of the camera pan where I pretend to be hit by the bullet. Now let's add a bullet hit effect to this footage. As you know, I'm a big fan of the Actions Essential package by Copilot, and I will use it for this video, but as always you can find links to free stock footage elements in the description to this video. Now let me show you how not to do it. Let's pick one of the bloodburst effects and place it on top of our footage just at the moment as I'm being hit. I'm also going to add a blood hit effect to the tree that is behind me. Yes, I know it's way too far for any blood to actually reach the tree, but I just want to show you how you could create blood splatter effects on the surfaces directly behind your actors. For this, I'm going to drop a blood hit effect in my composition and place it on top of the tree. I'm also going to add a few masks just so it looks like it sits behind me on the stem of the tree. Now, let's have a look at our masterpiece, shall we? Well, that didn't really work. The blood burst itself wasn't too bad because it was a very short effect. However, the blood splat on the tree isn't following the camera and it's just floating through the scene. What we need to do is we need to track our footage. I do already have a tutorial on camera tracking, and I suggest you watch it now unless you already know how to use the camera tracker. For this tutorial, I'm going to assume that you know the basic operations of the camera tracker. To track our footage, we first need to create a null object. You can simply right-click next to your layers and go New Null Object. I'm going to call it Tracker. I'll trim the layer just to start when I'm about to be hit. Next, go to your tracker controls. Simply go to Window, Tracker. We need to find a high contrast element in our scene that we can track. I'm going to track the top right corner of this street sign in the background. Simply set up your track point and start tracking. If for some reason the tracker gets off course during the tracking, you can simply go back a few frames, adjust your track point and continue tracking. But our sign is about to go out of the scene. But don't worry, we can actually fix this. We can change what we are tracking in the scene without affecting the actual position we are tracking. First, drag your track point to a new element in the scene. I'm going to select this branch that is sticking out of the grass. Once you've positioned your track point on the new element, simply select the little cross in the center of your track point and drag it back to its old position. Now we can continue tracking and the track point will attach to the little branch, but the tracking data recorded will still follow the corner of the sign. Ensure that you're targeting your null object and apply the XY position from the tracker onto your null object. I'm also going to trim down the layer for my null object just so I know where the tracking data starts and ends. If we now parent the blood burst and the blood hit effect to this tracking null object, they will follow the camera's movement. It's time for some cleanups. One thing I want to do is I want to animate the mask on the blood hit that sits behind me on the tree, just so that as I fall, it reveals more of that blood hit. I also notice that our blood hit, even though it follows our tracking data, drifts into the tree trunk a little bit. This is actually caused by the fact that the street sign that we tracked is a lot further away than the tree trunk, and during the camera movement the tree trunk in the foreground seems to move faster. But we can easily fix that up by animating the position of the splat effect. Next, let's create the blood mist cloud. For this, I usually like to select the powder hit and use the colorama effect to tint it red. Go into the settings for the colorama effect, make sure the input is set to intensity and set the output to red. Also, under modify, ensure that you disable modifying alpha so it's still a nice semi-transparent cloud. You can tweak the red to make it a little bit darker. Don't forget to parent your powder hit to the null object as well, otherwise it won't follow your camera. Actually, I find all the blood effects a little bit too bright, so I'm going to add brightness and contrast effects to all of those layers and just turn down the brightness a little bit to blend them into the scene a little bit more realistically. Finally, let's create the bloodstain effect on my shirt. Since this effect is only going to be visible for a few seconds, we don't have to go into too much detail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take another blood hit effect, place it on my shoulder where I'm being hit, and mask it out so it's a little bit rounder, more like blood stain rather than a big splat. I'm also going to turn my layer into a 3D layer because as I'm falling backwards, I'd like the layer to tilt a little bit in 3D space just to look a bit more realistic. Next, animate your rotation, position and scale as needed just so it follows the actor while they're being hit. And with that, your blood hit effect with a moving camera is complete.
I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and as always, please leave any comments, questions or suggestions in the section below. And thank you very much for all the great questions, feedback and requests I've been getting. I do have a lot of tutorials in the queue, but I do take all feedback and all requests seriously, so hopefully I'll get around to them eventually. Please subscribe if you want to see more, or come and stalk me on Facebook or Twitter. Until next time, I will see you later.